Hi, my name's Kim J and I'm a sight impaired chef. I'm also a volunteer for RNIB. Now today I'm going to show you how to make King Charles celebration quiche, and it is amazing. Now the ingredients you're going to need is 1 clove of garlic finely chopped, 1 ready rolled short crust pastry. Now you could buy a block and roll it out yourself or even make it yourself. 150 grams of baby spinach pre-washed, 350 grams of extra mature cheddar, approximately 50 grams of butter, about a tablespoon's worth of fresh tarragon leaves, 80 grams of broad beans, 125 millilitres of milk and 175 millilitres of fresh double cream. To make this celebration quiche, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare my flan dish. It's a pie dish. Mine is a big one because I've got a large family, so it's about 24 centimetres in diameter. You can use a smaller one if you want. And I've got a paper kitchen towel and some butter. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to butter the dish using the kitchen towel just to hold it, the butter in place, and just butter the sides and the bottoms and even the edges the best you can. This will stop the pastry from getting stuck to the sides. I have in front of me now my pastry board, my rolling pin, my ready rolled pastry, some flour and my buttered quiche dish. Now I'm going to put some flour onto my pastry board, sprinkle it, and then very carefully unroll the pastry. Now quite often the pastry is not the size of your flan dish, so I'm going to put some more flour on top, so it may require a little bit of rolling out. And if you're anything like me, I don't like a thick short crust pastry. I like it nice and thick, thin and crisp. So just roll it out to the size of the flan dish and bigger, so it overlaps. It goes over the edges and it overlaps the sides. Now the reason we have that overlap is because once I've done, I'm going to put my flan dish with the pastry rolled into it into the fridge for at least an hour to allow the pastry to contract back in, because when pastry is warm it relaxes and it stretches, and as soon as you put it in the oven at that stage it will just contract really fast and you get very little pastry there. Right. I'm now placing the pastry into my flan dish very gently, just making sure that the pastry goes right into the edges like that. Like I said, you will find that there is pastry at this size. For the time being, just cut off the biggest edges but leave about, I'd say about 2 centimetres approximately or more overlap, and then this is going to go into my fridge. I've pulled my flan dish with the pastry out of the fridge and I'm now going to blind bake it. I have with me a baking parchment larger than the pie dish, and into it I'm going to put ceramic baking beans. Now not everybody has these. You can use, I have used dried chickpeas, pulses in the past, and you just place the beads into your pastry and just spread it all around. Now what this does, it stops the pastry from creating massive bubbles when it's cooking. I'm now going to put my flan into the oven at 150 degrees for about 15 minutes. Now I'm going to put my oven gloves on. I love these oven gloves. They are amazing. They're very long, so they cover not only my hands but my arms. Because I don't know about you, but when I take things out of the oven, they always seem to be at the back of the oven, so you're having to stretch to get in there, and that means your arms are at risk. So these are really safe. They will take heat up to a high temperature, and they will also take freezing temperatures, so that when you want to defrost your freezer, your hands are well and truly protected. Now, if you're anything like me and you're working in the kitchen, and I've always got several things on the go, you lose track of time, and I'm always losing track of time. So whenever I put something in the oven or on the hob, I have my timer ready. And this one, yes, it talks. It's very easy to use. It's got 4 buttons at the bottom, and from the far left you have the button that sets hour. The one next to it will set minutes. The third one is amazing, because when you press that at any stage, it tells me how long I've got left. And the final one is on and off. So I'm going to set this to 15 minutes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 minutes.
Then I'm going to press the farthest right one, the start and on off button.
Timer on.
To set it. And it's that easy to use. I'm going to measure out the broad beans and the spinach. Now, I've got my amazing talking kitchen scales here, which I absolutely love. Very easy to use. And this one has a jug on it, so it measures 2 buttons. The first one puts it on and off, and the second one runs you through, which is what we want, grams. So I'm going to need about 80 grams of broad beans.
It is 78 grams. It is 80 grams.
Brilliant. I'm now going to put these into my mixing bowl. Now, because there's a lot of spinach and it's not going to fit into my measuring jug, I'm just going to put my large mixing bowl on top of my kitchen scales. Reset it.
0.
So I'll press it twice to reset. And now I'm going to measure out my spinach.
It is 191 grams. It is 181 grams.
And that's how easy it is.
It is 180 grams.
With my spinach and the broad beans in a plastic measuring bowl, I'm going to add about half a teaspoon of butter, nothing else, nothing more, and that chopped garlic. Put it all in, give it a little bit of a stir just to mix it in. Now I'm going to stick it in the microwave. As everyone knows, I love my gadgets in the kitchen, and being sight impaired, getting gadgets that I can use is very difficult, because most of them are nowadays digital. Having a talking microwave is integral in my kitchen. Now, this one is so easy to use. It's got a large dial that starts, stops, and
Volume 10, volume 9.
it puts the volume up and down,
Volume 6.
which I love. It has 3 buttons on top. The lower one,
Low.
which is the settings.
Defrost.
And for me,
Medium.
I'm going to put it on medium. Then the
Press start
one
to
above
begin,
that
or press and hold start for 3 seconds to cancel. 10 seconds.
is for seconds.
20 seconds. 30 seconds.
And the one above that is for minutes.
1 minute. 30
It's that easy
seconds.
to use. But I'm only going to put this spinach in for about a minute.
Press
So
start
I'm going to
begin,
clear this.
or press and hold start for 3 seconds to cancel. Cancelled. Low. Defrost. Medium. 1 minute. Door open. Beware hot contact.
contents.
I'm putting my plastic mixing bowl with ingredients into the microwave and setting it off.
3, 2, 1. Time completed. Door open. Beware. of
Taking out
contents.
the mixing bowl,
Door closed.
and just giving it a stir. So I'm allowing that melted butter and the garlic to infuse into the broad beans and the spinach. Ready for the next step. I've got my trusted kitchen scales and I'm now going to measure out my liquid ingredients.
Power on.
We need millilitres.
Milliliter.
Now you need approximately 125 mils of milk. You don't have to be spot on. I've done the milk, now I'm going to put in approximately 170 mils of double cream. I have in front of me a large mixing bowl, my 4 eggs, salt and pepper, and a whisk, just a simple hand whisk, you could use electric, and my trusted Dyson mat, which I put my mixing bowl on to stop it from slipping. I put the eggs into the mixing bowl. Add approximately about a teaspoon of black pepper, a nice sprinkle of salt. You don't need too much because cheese, remember, always is slightly salty, and you then mix your eggs up together. Now that I've mixed my eggs, I have in front of me my spinach and broad bean mixture, my milk and double cream mixture, my cheese and my tarragon. Now I love the smell of tarragon, so with about a tablespoon's worth of tarragon, I'm just going to rip it into the eggs like that. It is a very strong herb. Into that I am going to pour into my double cream and milk mixture. Again, whisking. And as you whisk, the oils from that tarragon is flavouring the mixture. Now put in your spinach and broad bean mixture, as much or as little as you want. Just rip the spinach into the mixture. Put in about 3/4 of the spinach and the broad bean mixture and left the other quarter on one side. And now I'm going to put in about 1/3 of the cheese. Now, as we know, Prince Charles loves his vegetables. He loves gardening, and this is why he came up with this amazing recipe. He loves his organic food, fresh, as fresh as you possibly can. Right, the cheese has gone in, and quiche is such an amazing dish. He chose this one especially because you can share it with those that you love. I've taken my flan dish out of the oven. I've taken off the bacon parchment with the bacon beads on, and if it needs a bit of a trim, just with a pair of scissors trim the sides. Now what I'm going to do is, with some of that cheese that was left, I'm just going to sprinkle it at the bottom of this flan dish. Just a fine layer at the bottom. I'm now going to put a layer of that remaining spinach and broad beans that we had left, and just literally just scatter some of it on top, and then pour in this lovely quiche mixture, making sure that the liquid gets to all edges of the flan dish. Finally, I'm just going to sprinkle it with a little bit more cheese, and now this goes into the oven at 180 degrees. I've had the quiche in the oven for 40 minutes and it's beautifully done. The crust is this lovely golden brown and it looks like a garden with all that spinach and the cheese. It's amazing. And of course, I've got to try it and have a little bit of taste of this royal quiche. I've got to admit, the first thing I can smell as I'm lifting the fork is the tarragon. Now that is a dish worth celebrating. Now you have a recipe for a great dish, but when you're in the kitchen there are certain safety guides and rules that you should adhere to and which keeps you safe. Now, one of the things that I do before I start cooking is I make sure that I've got shoes on that are sturdy with good grips. I make sure that there's nothing on the floor that I can trip over and there are no spillages or liquid or condensation on the floor that makes it a bit of a hazard. Now, before cooking, the first thing that you do, as we all know, is wash our hands thoroughly. And especially when you're dealing with raw meat at every stage, wash your hands thoroughly. It stops cross-contamination. It keeps you and your family safe. When you're using the oven and the hob, know your oven and hob really well. Now, I use tactile markings so that I know exactly what temperature to put the oven on and what setting, so that I've not put the grill on when I should be putting the oven on. Now, with the hob, whenever you're sort of putting anything on the hob, make sure the handle is not sticking out. Now, I like to keep the handle at approximately 10 to 12. And the reason for that is it's not near enough to the unit for you to accidentally knock it off. It is not over another hob which may be on, so the handle's getting hot. So this is the safest position. Now, if you're boiling anything, be very, very careful. Don't fill the pan up too much. And if possible, use the boiler alert, which tells you when that liquid is bubbling away and it's hot and it keeps you safe. If you're not comfortable with the hob and the oven, use the microwave whenever you can. It's a lot safer. And every time you are taking things out of the oven or from the microwave, because remember, plates and dishes get extremely hot in the microwave, use oven gloves. Now, I like to use thermal oven gloves. They're a lot safer. Don't be tempted to use tea towels or anything else. And they literally go to extreme temperatures, so you're very safe with them. Whenever you cut any food in the kitchen, use safe cutting methods. Keep the blade away from your fingers, so set it a couple of millimeters away from your fingers, and that way you're safe all the time. Now, if you're not confident with a knife, you can use appliances like food processors. Make sure you know how they work properly and keep safe. And if you're still not confident, ask somebody else to do it. It is better to be safe than have an injury. If you have any cuts or you cut yourself whilst you're in the kitchen, put a plaster on it. And if you have a burn, run it under cold water. And if it's bad, you seek medical advice straight away. Whenever you cook meat, always ensure that the meat is thoroughly cooked, because you know, raw meat will give you food poisoning. Now, the best optimum temperature to cook meat is between 66 degrees and 73 degrees. Use a food thermometer if you're not too sure. They do have talking food thermometers, which you can get quite easily. And you store the meat as soon as you can. As soon as it's cooled down, store it straight away in the fridge and read the advice on storage on the labels.